Hello everybody, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. Today's video is going to be called Alien Abduction and Astral Projection. Now, you've heard me talk before about my experiences with the gray aliens and also with those that are called the Nordics. We met the Nordics when I found their undersea craft in the Undersea Alien Craft Found video. And we talked about the gray aliens and my experiences with them in the Astral Projection to the Gray Aliens video. And I'll include links to both of them in the description section. So there's been this link in my astral projections. And when I've talked with others over the years and had classes, aliens would invariably come up. And I've thought a lot about some of the similarities between the alien abduction experience and what people report, as well as the astral projection experience. And what I'd like to talk about in this video is the similarities between the two experiences. We'll also talk about the differences. And then we'll see if we can come up with any sort of hypothesis or at least some good questions or theories or something that might point to some sort of causal or other relationship between these two seemingly disparate and very different types of experiences. Before we get into it real briefly, I think most of the people listening here understand what alien abduction is, but just in case you're not certain about that, it's the phenomena where people report being taken aboard spacecraft and usually undergoing examinations by aliens. Sometimes they talk with the people, the aliens, give them messages, and then they return them to Earth. And there's a whole set of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books associated with this phenomena. So I'm certainly not going to get too deep into the woods on this one. But I just wanted to make sure I define that term real quickly. So let's get into some of these similarities between alien abduction and astral projection, and let's see if they have anything in common. For much of this information, I'm going to be consulting a book by Gabbard and Twemlow, the title "With the Eyes of the Mind: An Empirical Analysis of Out-of-the-Body States," and it was published in 1984. Starting with 94% of the people they surveyed for this particular book, 94% of those folks reported that the experience of astral projection was, quote, more real than a dream. And we certainly, as astral projectors, could verify just how real this experience is, especially when you compare it to dreams or lucid dreams. People who experience alien abductions also view the experience as very much more real than a dream. And they have very much that in common. The next major area is the astral projection body is very similar to the physical body. And we've discussed this as well. The default setting once you leave your physical self is your astral body conforms pretty closely to your physical body. Of course, you can change that with will, but that's how it starts out. During alien abductions, people report that their body dissolves or that it is transparent, and that they have a sense that they're in a body that is lighter is vibrating at a higher level, is more light than their usual physical being. The next major category is the same environment as the physical body. Now we know in astral projections you generally start out in the lower astral, which generally has a very high similarity to your typical physical surroundings. There is sometimes some small or some other differences based on whether you've slipped in time or a parallel dimension, or perhaps somebody put some energy into creating something over the years and it didn't appear in the physical, but it was energetic enough to appear in the astral. People who report their abductions similarly report dark and shady bedrooms that look very much like theirs. 55% of the folks in this Gabbard and Twemlow study reported having, quote, a sense of energy. Alien abductees likely also describe feeling energetic, feeling that they are full of electricity. 54% of people with astral projection experience wanted to return to their body and end the experience. Now, experienced astral projectors kind of laugh at that emotion, but you have to recall that try to remember your first astral projection before you knew what was going on. You could certainly understand people being very confused and very alarmed that they seem to be outside of their physical body. In alien abductions, you also report a very high percentage of folks who want this to stop. They want to return to their bedroom. They want to return to their home. The next one's very interesting. They reported, people who astral project report the ability to pass through objects. And we certainly, anyone who's astral projected knows that you can pass through walls and what have you. Interestingly enough, alien abduction experiences very commonly report being lifted up in the air, passing through walls, windows, you name it. And so here's another situation where, where they have something in common. The next category is certainly something that we all can understand. They felt vibrations in the body. We call that in astral projection the vibratory state. Well, it turns out that folks who are being reporting alien astral or alien abduction experiences also report a tingling sensation, buzzing, ringing, whirring noises in their heads. So one person said they remember their whole body vibrated and shook for maybe a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds. Next, part of the awareness was still in the body. Some 37% of the astral projection subjects reported they had some kind of a dual consciousness. And this is not unusual because you're connected with the astral cord. So you often have sense of a dual type of existence. Now, we don't dwell on that when we astral project, because if you do, you risk being drawn back into your physical body. But that dual sensation is quite often there. And this is something I wasn't typically aware of in the past, it seems that folks who are abducted have also reported similar types of dual consciousness. In the next area, was aware of the presence of beings. 37% of astral projectors report seeing or being aware of the presence of other entities. And it turns out that folks experiencing alien abductions also experience the presence of other beings. Hearing noises in early stages. 37% of the OBEers said they heard a variety of strange noises. I've heard the radio in the past when I'm exiting my body. And it turns out that folks experiencing alien abductions also tend to hear sometimes loud or high pitched noises. Or one person said they could, quote, hear the vibration. Another category, experience the change in the sense of time. We have talked numerous times about how the perception of time and changes when you astral project. Well, it turns out in alien abductions, that is experienced as well. In fact, this one person talked about he experienced, quote, the collapse of past, present, and future during his alien abduction. So obviously, something with time is going on. And I know from in the past reading alien books, geez, all the way back in the 80s, it's quite common for Betty and Barney Hill are an example, for instance, where time is lost. People remember driving somewhere, like in this Betty and Barney Hill case. And then the next thing they know, the car's off to the side of the road, their clothes are kind of crumpled, and they figure out that they've lost a number of hours. Where did it go? What happened? Well, that certainly happens in alien projections. In another category, 30% of OBEers report seeing brilliant light during their experience. I certainly have seen a variety of light as well myself during various experiences. People with NDEs, near passing over experiences, also report that. Well, people who have experienced alien abductions have also seen lights and bright lights in the sky, bright lights in rooms. So there's another thing in common there. 26% of OBEers report the presence of guides and helpers. We've talked about that too. And my little angel friend that pops up every now and again, for instance. People who've experienced alien productions or alien abductions also experience a variety of guides and helpers. One individual wrote that alien beings function as spirit energies or guides, serving the evolution of consciousness and identity. Dark tunnel with white light at the end. 26% of astral projectors have seen that. I used to see that when I was a kid, but I really don't see that anymore. Folks who astral project or folks who are experience abductions also report seeing. One guy reported seeing he felt like he was going down a time tunnel. Another one said he felt like it was laser-like. It was a tunnel of light. Now, some other things I'll just mention briefly. Feeling attached to a physical body, feeling able to touch objects, felt that others were aware of them, felt a sense of a border or a limit. And this last one I definitely do want to talk about real quickly. Experience panoramic vision. 14% of astral projectors have experienced panoramic vision, and that's where you have 360-degree vision. I have experienced that myself. Now, it tends to be somewhat rare, and I think it's somewhat rare for astral projectors only because you're not used to it. So you ignore it like you ignore your appendix. You're used to having your forward-facing information coming to you. So when you astral project, that's what you're paying attention to. However, if you make an effort, you can see that you can actually see 360 degrees around you. People who have had abductions, and this is stretching it a little bit, but this one guy talked about he could look out a window of the craft that he was in, and it was 360 degrees, and he could see the beautiful earth in every direction. Okay, so these are some of the things that astral projection and alien abductions have in common. Let's take a look real briefly at some of the dissimilarities, some of the things that these two major experiences do not share in common, just so we can kind of round things out a little bit. People who report alien abduction quite often report being in a state of paralysis throughout much of their experience. Now, that's dissimilar from astral projection. Yes, when you first astral project, your physical body can feel like it's paralyzed because it's asleep. However, once you're out of your body, there's no longer paralysis. You're running around, you're flying, you're having your whole astral projection experience. People here report long-term paralysis. You know, they're out of their body, they're on this table, and the whole time they feel like they can't move, which of course can cause terror. The next is physical evidence. Generally, astral projections are a very individual type of experience. However, with alien abductions, there is often scars or scoop marks on the individual, or even burn marks on people's lawns. There's pain reported during alien abductions. Reporting pain during astral projection is extremely uncommon, and I would say that there's probably something wrong if you're experiencing pain going on. Astral projections can be consciously induced, and that's a big part of what we do here by educating people. Alien abductions aren't something that people can or even want to usually induce on their own. Surgeries or genetic experiments have happened with alien abductions, and those don't happen with astral projections. Control and degree of control is a big difference. Astral projectors, we control where we want to go. We think and will ourselves to a variety of areas or times. Typically, in an alien abduction, there isn't any sense of control. You are being transported somewhere without your own conscious will. Now, what can we draw from this? My daughter, who is a physician's assistant, often tells me that correlation does not imply causation. In other words, you can't legitimately deduce a cause and effect relationship between two different variables solely on the basis of an observed association or correlation between the two. So just because astral projection and alien abductions seem to share a lot of similar types of symptoms, if you will, we can't necessarily draw the conclusion that they are associated or that there is some sort of a direct relationship between the two. So, while we have obviously a wide variety of similarities, I think we have to look elsewhere. I think we can see that alien abductions are not OBEs or astral projections or vice versa. But we need to understand that there's enough similarities to show that perhaps a fair number of alien abductions might have been incorrectly reported as astral projections. And who knows, maybe a fair number of astral projections have been incorrectly reported as alien abductions. This particular study said that using conservative means, it's estimated that out-of-the-body experiences occur in approximately 11 to 25% of the population. And some authors have indicated that it might be higher. Which would mean that we're talking about millions of Americans who perhaps have experienced astral projection. However, many of these same polls have indicated that the prevalence of the alien abduction phenomena is a much smaller percentage of the American populace. So, there's obviously similarities between these two experiences. And I think a lot more study needs to be done on, on both of these phenomena, alien abduction and astral projections. And I want to keep my mind open because, for instance, in my experience with the Greys, when they were examining that individual on the examination table in the lab, he was floating above his body. His astral body was floating above his body while they were working on him physically. So perhaps astral projections are astral projections, but perhaps through the alien process, through their various medical processes, they somehow induce astral projections of their lab rats. They're the humans that they're experimenting on. One thing that the good experiences also share in common, though, with the astral projections is that there is often messages of, number one, you guys need to take better care of the earth. I've heard that in my astral projections, and I know I've read that from people's experiences in alien abductions. And that you need to continue to unite and progress forward as a species, and not engage in war and all this destructive infighting that sometimes seems to occupy mankind. So that's the video for this week. What I would like is if you had any particular experiences with alien abductions yourself, why don't you put it in the comments? If you don't have time to talk about it, then just say that you've also had experiences with aliens and astral projections, and you can leave it at that. If you like this video, please like it, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, why don't you hit that bell button? I'm Rick, and as always, I will see you on the astral plane.